Hey guys, remember to like the video and hit subscribe. Like the free speech thing was obviously a massive lie. You know, you can see Elon going crazy for censorship for people he doesn't like. You can see Trump going crazy for filing lawsuits against people who say things about him he doesn't like. So the free speech thing was a total lie. Anything having to do with like Zuckerberg completely 180ing on everything relating to like fact checking and responsible speech. So, okay, so I guess all of that was a total lie. But so like when everybody is constantly 180ing on every single thing they said, it's like, okay, well now we have to figure out what's actually driving these people. It's clearly we can't listen to what they say, or we can listen, but we can't take them at face value. We got to figure out what else is going on here. Like, so you're trying to figure out at the end of the day, what's powering these people, you know?
Which would be a white guy supreme kind of thing. I think they actually believe that at their heart. And so you're going to see that manifested in these statements that he makes all the time, which are very clearly, like, I forget what he said, but essentially we need more South Africans here in this country or something like that. And he's always sort of pulling in that direction. I have never heard him express any kind of what I would consider. I've heard different CEOs express racism. His is a different kind. It's more around social engineering and the idea that the best people are being replaced. I think that's really where he lives, which is also racist, of course.
So to you, the synthesis of these positions is that Musk is still motivated by the desire to become interplanetary, but he just believes that we are corroding the civilizational virtues and genius, that you would need to do that with DEI and the woke mind virus.
Everything is in the way of our getting somewhere else because the lesser people are in charge, or the lesser people, you know, he does talk about this a lot. Of like at one point he was tweeting about cesarean sections, right? Did you see that tweet? Where he said if you have a cesarean, you have a better brain because your brain comes out better because you're not going through the vaginal canal. This whole thing he was talking about. And, you know, I've had a cesarean, so I sort of was like, sit down, sir. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. But he was, that was a really interesting thing. Everyone sort of passed people by, but I was like, oh, he thinks you have to like preserve the birth. Like he's sort of eugenics almost. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was such a weird thing for him to go down that avenue. But he has these theories about human brains and development. Obviously he's involved with
Honey, what are you screaming about? You're unhinged. What's your issue then?
Neuralink. So he's always been interested in the idea of machine people merging together. That's certainly an area that hasn't been plumbed enough, is Neuralink stuff.
And so if you put all this together and bring it back to the government, it sounds to me like if I pull out what you're saying here, what you have is someone who, in order for humanity to achieve its long-term goals, you need people like Elon Musk in control of a federal government that is responsive to people like Elon Musk, purged of the forces that were not responsive, that slow down a person like Elon Musk, in a polity that isn't infected by these modern progressive ideas of equity, of consensus, of doing all these things that are just slow and burdensome and regulatory and soft and don't allow for the risk and the daring to allow you to blow up 90 rockets.
Wait, quick break. I'm curious. What does this look like?
Do you feel like it's a backlash, or do you feel like you're violating people's privacy?
This is Kara, I guess, interviewing Zuckerberg a long time ago, 14 years ago.
Do you feel like you're adequately portrayed as a... Because I want to wonder about the person who actually created this thing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of stuff happened along the way. I think, you know, there were real learning points and turning points along the way in terms of building things. You know, it really went from this position very early on where we were just in this college dorm room to we moved out to California. It was a few friends and me. And, you know, it just kind of had this project feel for a while. And there was this real turning point when companies started trying to buy the company for a huge amount of money. And, you know, I had to kind of get my friends together and we had to decide what was it that we really cared about and what was it that we wanted to do. And, you know, we decided not to take those offers. And, you know, to me, a lot of that decision was that what we wanted to do and what we wanted to spend, you know, a big part of our lives doing was just continuing to push and kind of build products that help people share information, build products that help people stay connected. And that's really what we're spending our time doing. And you know, I think you know, there's just been a lot of space between that early stuff and where we are now. If I knew what I knew now then I hope I wouldn't have made those mistakes. But I can't go back and change the past. I can only do what we think is the right thing going forward.
So, before we move off this privacy thing, and I thought that was a fascinating answer.
It's okay. You want to take off the hoodie?
You know, I never take off the hoodie.
I know you don't. What's with that? There's a group of women in the audience that wish you would.
No.
Girls?
Whoa.
All right.
Sorry. Yeah, that's okay.
Can you explain what this instant personalization thing was that you did and why you did it and what's the value of it to your users?
Maybe I should take off the hoodie.
Take off the hoodie.
Go ahead.
You want to? Are you hot? Go ahead. Here. Let me get someone. You all right?
Yeah.
This is a great moment in internet history.
What?
Yeah.
What are we going to do with the mic?
Put it on your...
All right.
Put it on the collar of your T-shirt. Do you want some?
Do you need some help?
No, I'm good.
All right. Okay. Mark?
Sorry about that.
Sorry about being warm, Mark.
No, it's...
We're not even yelling at you.
Yeah.
Yet.
We're not going to yell at you.
No, of course not. That is a warm hoodie.
Yeah, no, it's a thick hoodie. It's a company hoodie. We print our mission on the inside.
What?
Oh, really?
My God, the inside of the hoodie, everybody. Take a look. What is it? Making the
world more open and connected.
Oh my God, it's like a secret
Cool.
cult. Look at that, making the world open and connected, stream, graph, platform, and this weird symbol in the middle that is probably for the Illuminati. Oh, 2010.
No, it's 2010.
Oh no.
If you don't start debating conservatives on the coup that's happening, I'm moving to Pisco stream. This shit is boring. Listen, you're always welcome to watch your stream. I watched Pisco debating Lactoid the other day on some of it, and it's just like conservatives are just like, it's full retardation. It's actually the most retarded, boring, stupid shit in the universe. I think the entire debate, I don't know if Pisco hosts his VODs or whatever, the entire debate was literally just Lactoid, like going over and over again. I think, oh wait, this is like a WIC debate.
So what Lactoid...
Oh, it was this. It was like him saying over and over again, like, if you can't tell me the exact number of days that the government would have, why? I don't even know what the fuck you're doing. Okay. Like, if you can't tell me the exact number of days the president can shut down some funding, then that means it's never illegal or unconstitutional. It's just like, these are soul crushing, the most retarded conversations that I can like ever listen to. Like, oh my God, it's so stupid. Oh my God. I don't know what he's doing up there. Honey, what? Okay. Have fun.
And so that sort of, is that your view of like the put it all together, that he's trying to functionally make the federal government something that can be effectively controlled by people like him?
If I move the books, do you think he'd lay down? If I go over there, he's going to try to jump down because that's what he always does. Hold on. He's not going to lay down now that I made a space for him. He's going to just...
To get to the goals he wants to get to?
Yeah, I think he thinks they're in the way. This goes back to Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is, everyone's like, oh, they want to reform it. I go, no. They want to burn it down, like, and start again. Like, that is, if you spend time reading Peter Thiel, that is what he's saying, right? Democracy doesn't work. It doesn't work. We're going to start with something else. And so they don't want, and that is sort of the ethos of, move fast and break things, right? Which is a software term. They want to break. They don't want to build. They want to break. And they can't build until you break. And that's the disruption. Think of all the words they use. It's all about, like, destruction. Like, and it's not creative destruction. It's let's wipe the slate clean, and then we will build the civilization we want. And let us...
You may think it's tedious, but these ideas are constantly in the public's mind. That's why we need to retread 2016 energy. You need to debate normal Trump supporters again. Yeah, but the challenging thing is that while you're debating them on what exactly would be violative of the law, the underlying idea is they don't actually care if Trump is violating the law. Like, that's the challenge, is if you were to debate them ultimately into a position, maybe they'd even concede the argument, but at the end of the day, emotionally, like, well, if Trump is breaking the law, I don't care. He should break the law. The law is fucked. It's all the deep state anyway. Who cares, And enjoying the productive non-doer content. I can only take so much conservative slop in a day. Thanks, Blakely, I think.
Let us show you the way of how we can get back to glory, kind of thing. And like, it's just it's that theory, but they sort of burnish it with this techno-utopianism that is really techno-authoritarianism, if you break it down, that they know best, and that is, we just listen to them, the world will be a better place for everybody.
To try to be generous to it as a theory of governmental reform, which...
I know you'd like to do that.
I try.
I think democracies work pretty fucking well, but go ahead.
So Musk has said regulations basically should be default gone, not default there, default gone. If it turns out that we missed the mark on a regulation, we can always add it back in. And so if you take the view that we have a long-time stable government, it is there's a lot of crust, a lot of bureaucracy. The theory here, which I guess is also a theory from Twitter, is like, yes, you rid it, you turn things off, you turn them back on, you cut hugely, and if there's a problem, then you go fix a problem later. But better to cut deeper and then be able to rebuild in a cleaner way than to cut not deep enough, to only get a quarter loaf. And politics does not go that far in reform. It's very, very hard to reform institutions, and there are real problems from that. I mean, San Francisco works quite poorly. Much of the federal government, leaves something to be desired. So is there a case to be made here for
Did you say San Francisco
go that far in reform? It's very, very hard to reform institutions, and there are real problems from that. I mean, San Francisco works quite poorly. Much of the federal government
works quite poorly. Does he just mean in terms of reforming some things? I mean, there are definitely issues, but
leave something to be desired. So is there a case to be made here for Muskism, that he is doing what normal political reformers won't do and taking risk in order to do it, but this is actually the only way to actually create a federal bureaucracy that is not quite so sclerotic?
No, I think it's not at all. I think I'm a reform person, right? Obviously, everything's not going to happen at once. There is an ease to tearing it all down, isn't there? And it has to be a willingness to sacrifice people, right? We're going to sacrifice this group of people, these young women, they don't care about that. And one of the things I say over and over again, they're like, I have a lot of people like, how can they do this? How can they do this? I'm like, they don't care. They don't care for you. They don't think about you. You're nothing. And I remember one time Musk was the earliest person to talk to me about AI. AI has been around forever, but he was really concerned about the impact of AI on humanity. That was another thing. He was the first person to raise those alarms, to me at least, when he started OpenAI with Sam and the rest of them. First, he was like, AI is going to kill us. Like, it's going to like the Terminator idea, right? It's going to become self-aware in 20 whatever, and then it's going to turn around and bomb us and kill us and start again, right? And we got to stop that. That was his theory. Next time I saw him, he thought it was. I thought he came up with a much more sophisticated idea of it, which was they're not going to kill us. They're going to treat us like house cats. Right?
Yeah, Gulag, that honestly, that would be the best question. But I don't have access to bigger conservatives now to say that. But I think the best question if you're debating a conservative is, what is your red line? What could Trump do that would be over that would be over a line for you? I would be interested to hear that answer. I don't even know if they'd answer that question. I'm not sure.
Right? We're house cats, and they're fine with us here, and they're going to build everything around us, but we're not in danger. We're in danger in the way house cats are. As long as they like house cats, we're fine. Like, they don't think of us as anything more. Then the next time I saw him, he had evolved into this idea that AI was more like building highways, the way we build highways across the country, and humanity is a bunch of anthills. And we go across anthills without thinking when we're building roads. We don't know that the anthills are there. We just do it. I thought the progression was really interesting to me, that that's how he was looking at it. And to me, that's how I thought he was expressing how he operates. These things are anthills. I don't have to think about them because we never think about them. And so to me, that was a really interesting progression of the first one cares about what happens to humanity. The last one doesn't.
I like that progression of metaphors because very classically, what you put into the metaphor reveals what you can see and not see out of the metaphor. And I think the dominant comparison for what Musk is doing is Twitter, where he came in and used in some ways a very similar playbook to cut through it and take control of it. But during that period, Twitter broke down terribly. Its advertising collapsed. It's still a much jankier platform than it used to be. I mean, it has things it didn't have before, like Grok, but the search doesn't work. One thing that just strikes me when I look at what Trump is outsourcing to Musk right now is I wonder if they have really thought about the risk they're taking on.
No.
Because I've never seen an administration come in and so completely own everything bad that might happen that the federal government does or is supposed to regulate in the coming years. If you imagine something like the terrible plane crash that happened just recently, happening in a year, when pushed retirements have come through the FAA, and Musk had already pushed the administrator of the FAA to be on leave or resign, you would get a lot more blame for that. But bad things happen all the time. The federal government is supposed to stop financial crises and on and on and on. They're coming with this axe to the government, pushing indiscriminate resignations, reassigning people, pushing out very talented career staff. Anything that goes wrong, they are truly going to own.
Yes, but they won't. They will not.
Exactly. They won't own it because they'll just blame it on DEI. They'll blame it on somebody else, or they'll just they don't have to own anything. They never have responsibility for anything. I don't know why.
They will not. They will say it is not them. We're cleaning up from the previous, right?
Yeah.
They will not take control because Ezra, you think they care about consequences. One of the messages in my
I think they care about power.
They don't care about the consequences of damage. They do not care. They don't anticipate it.
Because they can always pass that responsibility onto someone else. Always.
You're right about Twitter. It's a lesser business. The only way he's getting advertisers is by threatening them. Like, they're just doing these lawsuits, and of course these advertisers are going to go back just to acquiesce to him, right?
Yeah, I mean, now he has power, right?
Not a better
it's
business.
a way to pay him off.
Tesla's not a better business than what it was because they haven't innovated the cars. That stock may be going up, but the sales are going down because the cars aren't as good. They just aren't. So he doesn't care about the actual thing. These people don't care about the actual thing. They care about laying waste to it, and then we'll build something better. But I don't know what they're going to build better. If you press them, and a lot of these, same thing with the media that goes with it, it's never about solutions, is it? It's about how everything sucks and we have to get rid of it. They never tell you what their replacement is for any of it because they don't have any.
True. When you ask them, how would you make this better? What would you do differently? It's always these vague, we'll make it more efficient. We'll make it less corrupt. We'll make it better. How? What are you going to, okay.
They don't have a theory of building. They have a theory of destruction. Trump just with the water thing. He just, we got to get the water flow. What a disaster that was, what he just did, in California. He's wasting water.
Opening reservoirs for no reason to fight fires that are gone.
And then the whole group of people going, sir, well done. I'm like, are you, who is not standing there from among the media going, are you kidding me with this?
This is, that's, yes, we need more people in the mainstream media saying shit like this. What the what are you doing, bro? You're retarded. Canada and Mexico didn't give you shit. All you did was make us look like losers. That's it. But it's today we're going to talk to this part of the Trump administration about their controversial decision to allow more water out of the reservoirs. Some people would say, blah, blah. And it's okay.
Going, well, sir, people say. I'd be like, that's why they don't let me in the White House. I'm like, are you kidding me? That was a disaster. What you just did, you idiot.
I think back to Twitter on the control question, because Musk buys Twitter. He breaks a lot of Twitter. He breaks the business of Twitter. Clearly, he's overpaying at $44 billion. And so I would have told you, a year ago, 18 months ago, that didn't work out. But what he did actually do is he made Twitter a channel for him personally.
That's right.
And he turned all of its attention and influence into something he could control. And I don't know if the power he's getting out of that or will get out of that is worth $44 billion. I don't think it's exactly the way to measure it, but I actually think it's worth more than that. I don't think it would be possible for Musk to play this role in both domestic and now international politics if he didn't do that. We don't know how to value attention.
It's the best investment he made.
Exactly.
Except for investing in Trump, that $280 million. Let me tell you, the only person when he bought.
Do you believe that the political streaming community has evolved into a form of reality television where audiences are drawn more to the interpersonal drama than to genuine discussion? It sounds like you're just talking about politics in general.
we were all sort of like, what in the world? Why is he paying so much? What an idiot, right? Everybody was saying that. That was sort of the...
Well, he was too. He tried to get out of it on the view that it was overvalued.
He was stupid, right? Because he wasn't anticipating what he could use it for, right? He didn't realize he had a really big gun there, right? He thought it was a knife or whatever. The only person who called me was Mark Cuban, and he says, Carrie, he's not buying it. Like, maybe he doesn't know he's doing this, but when he goes in a room internationally as the head of Tesla or Starlink, I mean, he gets a meeting just like the head of GM or Lockheed gets, right? And world leaders, et cetera. When he goes in as the owner of Twitter, he has enormous power globally from an influence point of view. He goes, this is not a U.S. play. This is a global play. And I was like, I think Mark Cuban was 100% right. He bought it, and it gave him, he's the Twitter guy, and also Tesla, but he gets it. No one else has that, right? And maybe back in the day, Rupert Murdoch, right, I guess. And that's what he's done. But like bigger, better, stronger, more influential. Rupert Murdoch would never think of sitting with Trump cutting this stuff.
Well, Murdoch didn't want to be the main character of his own platform.
Right, but he is kind of Rupert Murdoch now, right?
I totally agree with that.
Rupert Murdoch who likes to do shit.
I've said the same thing. I think it's the absolutely correct comparison. But that, I think, then brings us to the government, which is...
Murdoch, though, at least from the very little I've seen and am aware of, Murdoch understood the rule book and wanted to play within the rules, but he still wanted a lot of influence media-wise. But he also had like a strong belief in like an ideology and everything. I don't know if the same can be said for Elon. Elon seems to be willing to break way more rules, doesn't understand the history of the U.S. or the government or any media structure or anything at all. Yeah, I don't know. I view him as being more insidious even than Murdoch, but maybe not. Maybe I'm not giving Murdoch enough credit. I mean, Murdoch is what gave us things like Fox News and the whole Dominion bullshit and all that. So, you know.
He may not know what he wants to build after it, but what I think that at least the Twitter experience probably taught him is if you break it, you can control it. You can make it a vehicle for you, right? And if it's filled with the old people who were in it and they're unafraid and they have power and they're power centers, then you're posed. I don't know if even he knows what he wants to do with the government, but the degree to which he wants everybody to see that it is him doing it, I thought it was so telling that in the email they sent out to federal employees, trying to tell them you could get money and do nothing until September if you just retire, that he gave it the same subject line as the email he sent out to Twitter employees during that buyout. He wanted everybody to know it was him.
Exactly.
Right? He wants to be the main character of the whole thing, as you said at the beginning.
You said that right. I thank God you said that, because like all the media is like, look at this interesting thing. I'm like, he wants you to know.
It's a signature.
It's me, Fredo. I know it's you, Fredo. Like, he totally wanted people. Everything he does, he wants you to know, because again, he is a desperate attention sponge, and he just needs constant. Why would you stay up at night talking to people, named Cat Turd? Why? I'm not a psychologist, but boy, does he have a big old hole right in the center of himself. And so what I think is very telling about both of these people is they do not have solutions. They only tell us what the problem is, and they don't have a vision. Even Ronald Reagan had a vision. Like, they all have. What is your vision? What do you want to make? Except get out of my way and let me do what I want to do. That's really the vision that I can tell. I haven't heard what they want to make at all.
He does seem a bit. There's this idea of the sin eater. In fantasy novels. I forget exactly where it comes from, but it's the character that consumes sin and then can be purged, right? You can purge that figure, and then the sins are gone. It's a sort of sacrificial character. It's
Jesus, I think.
And in a way, Musk, I wonder a bit about that in terms of the pain of the administrative war that Trump and the people around him wanted to do. I mean, when I think about when this starts to go bad, assuming this starts to go bad, Musk taking so much credit for it all makes him so usefully sacrificial.
Totally.
When the people around Musk were more careful and quiet, the Susie Wileses, the Russ Votes, the rest of them who, are not
have you noticed they're all leaking? We don't have control of him?
Yeah, there's a lot of leaking already that we can't control Musk. Such that the moment he becomes more liability than asset, you can get rid of him. He's like, well, he went too far, right? Elon Musk got out of control. That wasn't us. I don't know that it happens. And, he has leverage he can bring to a fight like that. But it doesn't seem impossible that it happens. And you can see people setting up that escape route as we speak.
Utterly. Trump's life is full of those people. And now he's got the greatest one ever. Michael Cohen was that, like the fixer, right? So there's always a fixer in Trump's life who does these things, who's willing to go to the mat and for the boss, right? Which he likes to be called, apparently. So Musk is that writ large. It's just that he's much more protected because he's so wealthy. He has so much means that he almost is more powerful than... He's not a minion. He's like a super minion or something.
How real do you think the affection between the two of them is?
Well, Donald Trump is like, he has, 3 emotions, ABC. Like, I don't think he's very complex in that regard. I did think they were going to fight, and I know he's irritating to Trump. You hear that from a lot of people, and I think it's absolutely true. He probably is irritating. At the same time, Trump loves money, right? So really, that's at the heart of him. I think he's useful. I think Donald Trump finds him useful, and he is useful to Donald Trump. He's a useful junkyard dog, and so I think and he has a lot of money. So if he has a cudgel against these senators, he's going to give me money to take you out. Like, I've got a bank that never ends, essentially. He also knows he needs him to hold on to power, because what does it look like when they fight? What does that look like? You don't want Elon Musk outside the tent. That's a really bad place for Elon Musk to be, and angry, because he's shown he has an ability to fight back at people. So ultimately, it could go on for a while, and he could do more and more outlandish things and behave in more and more outlandish ways. Trump has an endless capacity for, oh, did he say a racist thing? I don't care. So I think it could go on for a very, very long time.
I've been struck, though, to see Trump already talking about, trying to make clear that Elon is under his control.
I told him
he said, quote, Elon can't do and won't do anything without our approval, and we'll give him the approval where appropriate. We're not appropriate, we won't.
Right.
And then there's this endless leaking from inside the administration that nobody's actually in control of him.
Yeah.
Trump is not paying attention to what he's doing.
Right.
And
no, he's not. He's totally not.
I think both things are actually true, that Trump could say no to him, but actually Trump doesn't.
It's not even that Trump doesn't, pay attention to what he's doing, or that Trump like isn't controlling Trump. I don't even think Trump would know how to. I don't think Trump knows about any of this. Like if you would ask Trump about the Department of Treasury or any of these departments and what they do or where the funding comes, I don't think Trump would know the answer. He literally has no clue. He's being led by everybody around him. So I don't even know what Trump would try to do to control him.
He's not paying attention to what he's doing.
Right. It would be somebody else controlling Elon through Trump. Trump is just like the vessel that everybody tries to operate through.
No, he's not. He's totally not.
I think both things are actually true, that Trump could say no to him, but actually Trump doesn't care. And so the danger for both of them, in a strange way, is that Musk, who is hyper-empowered and has a very, very almost endless appetite for risk, takes a risk that blows up for all of them.
What could that be? What is he, like detonate a nuclear bomb?
You break the government and things are going to break. I mean, you have to have a very, I'm not saying you do, but you have to have a very dim view of government to believe that if you get rid of this many talented people in it, that when bad things begin to happen in the world, and they happen constantly. I mean, there was a pandemic in Trump's first, in his first term. But Trump in his first term had this real interesting capacity to always seem like he was outside of the state that he, in theory, ran.
That's right.
He spoke as if, he was up in the balcony jeering at the opera he was watching. And that always gave him this strange, ability to separate himself from how a government that he didn't like worked. That was the whole political utility of the deep state. But they've torched that. I mean, I know they might still try to claim it, but when you do this kind of bulldozer tactic, and it's this public, and you are absorbing all this risk and pushing these people out, then when things break and people go back and they look and say, well, a bunch of the people here, they actually took the buyout. They took your fork in the road, Elon. I could be wrong. It could all work out great for them, but they're taking a lot of risk.
You see, you're operating on the idea they care about the pain. They don't care. They won't take responsibility for it. Have you heard Mark Zuckerberg take responsibility for any of the
I think Trump cares about pain, though. I mean, look at how quickly he backed off on his tariffs of Canada and Mexico when the markets began to move, right? You can lose midterm elections really badly, and then all of a sudden the investigations are coming for you.
Right, which is probably what will happen, right? That's the likeliest scenario here. I mean, one of the things that he's got to keep Musk around for that is the money on these things, to manipulate things, to really flood the zone with all kinds of money and efforts to win that midterms. But again, they don't care. He has done the damage. As long as he destroys it and you can't come back, is what they're doing. In Musk's mind, my guess is that he thinks this is the only way to do it, is to get rid of everything. They're hoping you focus so much on the destruction that you're not going to notice you're living in a destroyed place. And I know you think there's bigger implications, but you'll see they'll be all over they'll be so all over the place, it'll be hard to figure out what actually has been destroyed, or to feel a sense of anger. What's going to happen is people are going to feel a sense of just nihilism, right? I think that's what's going to happen.
I mean, I do think that's often the emotion that they are attempting to provoke. I want to ask you before we end a question about the broader Silicon Valley tech culture here. You've had this big, almost herd-like movement towards this. I forgot what you called it, a techno-authoritarian.
Authoritarianism. Yeah.
And it's been so fast and so intense among the leaders, the sort of cultural leaders of Silicon Valley, the people with like the biggest social media accounts, and they're all at the Trump inauguration. Do you see a counterforce when you think of the cultural currents there? Is it all just moving this direction? Are the employees moving this direction? Are the people coming up? Like, what is the contrarian bet in terms of this intellectual culture, which I mean was very different 10 years ago than where it is now, when everybody was pro-Obama.
They weren't pro-Biden, I can tell you that.
They were not pro-Biden, and they hated Donald Trump in 2016, with the exception of Thiel. So it moves very fast. And so whenever it moves as fast and as far as it has now, it sort of makes me wonder where it's going to be in 4 years. I'm curious if you have a sense of who you're watching as signals of that.
There's a few people. Reid Hoffman was just on the podcast this week. I sense fear in him, right? He funded the E. Jean Carroll thing. He's a very lovely person, and he's very even-handed all the time, but almost to a fault. I don't think he's going to be as aggressive, and he certainly was, right? But he's got to be thinking, what do I do? I'm very exposed, right? You have a Mark Cuban, who I think presents a different alternate. He claims to me he doesn't want to run for president. I think he has a real opening, right? Of like, oh, come on, this is not the way we are. I don't think everyone's moved there. I think most of there's these loudmouths like Musk and David Sachs and that gang, and even Peter's not that loudmouth these days, which is interesting. I find interesting. But there you have the loudmouths, but I don't think everyone is on this ticket. Like, if you noticed, you didn't see Tim Cook in the front row. With the greatest feat of engineering in history was somehow he didn't have to be in that picture, right? I have never thought Silicon Valley was liberal. I thought they were utilitarian, I guess. I thought they sort of were tolerant socially, but didn't really care, didn't think.
Yeah, one of the big problems is because conservatives have fought so much on social grounds, I think we tricked ourselves for a long time into thinking that liberal just meant pro-gay and not hating women or black people, like, basically. And so that's why I think people look at people like Joe Rogan. It's like, Joe Rogan used to be a huge liberal. Like, what happened? It's like, well, he never was really like a huge liberal. He just had like social tolerance. Like, that was really it. He doesn't have like a strong attachment to principles behind governing or anything like that. He just like didn't hate gay people. And that's probably true of a lot of the people in Silicon Valley as well, probably, yeah.
Think about it much. I think these people just want to do their business. I don't think they support Trump. I think it's like a VIG, right? Whether you're Bob Iger or whether you're anybody, you got to pay the VIG, or you don't have a choice right now. I don't think there's a deep well of support for Trump. I think it's just there's a bunch of loudmouths that have that, and everyone else just shakes their head. So when that's the case, there tends to be a countervailing force of these guys are shakedown artists, right? When, say, as you say, disaster will come and this will be a big mess, they will line up in that direction because it's good for them and for their shareholders. So whatever it takes for shareholders to do.
Actually, no, I wouldn't even say weed. I don't think most of these guys like Joe Rogan and all these people, I don't think any of these guys actually care about weed legalization. I think that there is an incredibly nuanced way to look at this, and I think that I think that they're very much on the other side. None of these people, the Tech Valley people, Joe Rogan, none of these guys care about weed legalization. They just care that they have the ability to buy and smoke weed. That's what they care about. And even though those things seem similar, I think they're entirely different, because the concept of fighting to legalize or nationwide decriminalize something is a lot different than just, bro, I just want to be able to smoke weed, off. Like, I guess the thing that I would look to for that now is how many of these people are actively talking about, like, Trump needs to legalize weed. I don't think they care. But if Trump were to make it so that every state all of a sudden couldn't sell weed, or like weed was significantly harder to get in the US, then I think they would care a lot. I don't think they give that much a fuck about like legalization or decrim or whatever. They might talk about it every now and then, but it's not like a huge priority. That's why none of them give a fuck about it now. Actually, I didn't watch the whole thing. I'm curious. Ooh, this would be a huge boon for my argument. It wouldn't sink it if it wasn't true, but it would be crazy if this was. Did Joe Rogan, when Trump was on, he must have I only made it 35 minutes in. This was so boring. Did he ask him about weed legalization? He must have, right? No shot. No shot. Really? 3-hour podcast and he didn't ask it all? Wait, cannabis maybe? Jeez. Yeah. No, yeah. I don't think any of these guys give a fuck about legalization of weed. They just want to be able to smoke it. I would look for marijuana. Pot of gold.
Do better. They will, if Trump tanks the stock market, if Trump tanks this, they'll be on the opposite side instantly, because they have no real values. They just don't. You know, Elon has more values than most of them in a weird way, even though they're warped and twisted. So I think they'll just go whatever way the financial markets go. That's my feeling.